and welcome to episode 4 of Gojenn podcast. I am your host, Jennifer, but you can call me Gojenn and find me as Gojenn on Ravelry and my email. So today is February 21st. It's a week since Valentine's, so now we're in the long slog until Memorial Day without a federal holiday. And we just had President's Day this past week. It was very sad to think that we have to go almost 3 months without a holiday. I am living in Virginia in the USA, and where I am, we got our first snow of the winter this past week. It was very exciting. I don't know if where you live, if people go crazy when they hear snow's coming. The grocery stores sell out of milk and bread as if we'll be snowed in for years and we must stock up on milk and bread. Then there's another set of people who have to stock up on beer and cigarettes. And for me, it's stocking up on my diet sodas and potato chips. There's just something about potato chips that I have to have when it's going to be bad weather. Go figure. Okay, this is a knitting and crochet and dyeing and sewing podcast, so I've got some things to show you this week. After last week, and I finished the Sweet Eleanor shawl, I have been back at work on my sweater, which this is my Malabrigo Rastita sweater. And I won't say you'll notice that this has changed, because you may be like my sister and think that everything looks the same until it's absolutely finished. But this looks a lot different to me, because the last time I talked to you, I had just joined under the arm. This is where the sleeve will go eventually. So I was just to right there. Okay, sister, you'll see that I've done this many rows since the last time. And it's starting to look a lot like a sweater now. I'm very proud of it. I'm enjoying it. I like the stockinette in the round. I can watch TV and knit. It doesn't require all of my attention, so that's a good thing for me. I will say that I have noticed the most consistent knitting error that I make when I knit is that, okay, I knit continental because I think that's the easiest way for a crochet person to learn how to knit, because you tension your yarn in your left hand. And I'll go in and I'll pick up the stitch, I'll yarn over, and then when I go to pull that stitch off, sometimes I don't pull the yarn over off, just the stitch. And so I will wind up with a little hole. Thankfully, you can't see that, so I'm hoping people won't see me when I'm wearing this, and I'll just have to keep moving so that they can't focus on the boo-boos. But I've tried to be a lot more mindful that is something I tend to do. I've changed the way I hold my needles. Instead of holding them more in a straight line, I'm holding them more straight up to help me remember and make sure that I pay attention to pulling that yarn over stitch off the needles. I am envious, excuse me, I'm envious of those of you who can knit and not look at what you're doing. I can't. I can't crochet and do that. Or else I just don't trust myself to, because I think I'm going to make major errors, and I probably would. So that's my only work in progress today. But I do have some finished objects, or my grandson said you should call them finished projects. So we can't decide if they're FPs or FOs. He had a very good time helping me with the podcast last week, and I got back some really sweet comments. So I'll have to see if I can get him back for another guest engagement. This is one of the things that was an FO for me this week. I had, I don't know if you remember my goals, but one of my goals was to do some sewing, to sew a project bag with a zipper. This is my first zipper. Yay, me. And of course some peace sign fabric. And it's got this little tab. The zipper actually works. And yes, I will confess, this is one of those things where you have to sew it together and then turn it. You sew it together, right sides together, and then you have to turn it out. I was so proud of myself. I had remembered to do everything except leave myself a hole to turn it out through. So I just had to cut myself a little hole and then go back and sew it back up. But, could you tell that if I hadn't told you? Of course not. I'm sure you're going to get on all the social media and tell people, do you know what Gojenn did? She forgot to leave herself an opening. And I apologize for my hair today. Not that it's ever really gorgeous, but we have so much static electricity because of the cold weather. I think I could run the whole house off the static electricity if I just knew how. I can't walk across the floor without shocking myself. This is another one of my finished objects. Can you see? It is a satin pillowcase. Probably complete with drool marks. No, I would never drool in my sleep. Anyway, I made two, one for me and one for my husband. I love them. My mom swears by a satin pillowcase that it helps, it doesn't pull on your hair when you're asleep, so it doesn't pull your hair out. And my dad still has hair, so I believe my mom. Of course, she's right. She'll tell you if you don't agree that she is. So that's two of my finished objects. They were both sewing, so I was very proud of myself for those. And yes, I was able to submit those to the Harry Potter Knitting and Crochet Club this week. So, yay, me. Another thing that I made is this cat. I don't know if you can see him very good, but he's cute. One of the prompts was to make something and embellish it. And in the other group, Nerdopolis, it was to make something that you're afraid of. So I made a cat. I'm not afraid of cats, but I am allergic to Persians. Yeah, you should have seen me when I found that out. If you're lazy like me, and if this is not going to be used by a child or by anybody really, this is just going to sit on my desk at work. It's not going to be something that I carry around. Kids aren't going to play with it. So to make the eyes, I take a little bit of pink nail polish and paint. This is one of the yellow-headed straight pen that I use for pinning my things down. And so I polished the yellow top of it with some, you're not going to be able to see it, never mind, with some pinkish nail polish, let it dry, and then my cat has two eyes. It's very lazy. It's the lazy person's way to do it. They're not safety eyes. They're not sewn-on eyes. They're just glowing pink zombie cat eyes. And that was some cute little, this sock yarn has been in my stash forever. Quite often over the years I've gotten the bright idea that I wanted to make socks. And I'll buy yarn, and then I wind up making something else. But right now I have this happy little kitty cat, or zombie kitty cat, whichever one you want to think of it as. So, those were my finished objects of the last week since I've seen you last. So what am I going to do next? I'm going to continue on my sweater because that is very important to me. I have knit 3 inches under the join under the arm, and so the next thing I'm going to do is start doing waist decreases, and they're very gradual over a long area of knitting, so I'm going to have to get my instructions out again to read and see what I have to do for that. But it's still going to be pretty mindless. I'll just have to decrease every 9 rows or something like that, I believe. So I'm looking forward. I enjoyed working on that sweater. So what's my next project? I have a tangerine design bag that I've had for quite a while. It's a drawstring bag with a little plastic stopper thing on it and a hook and a stitch marker, because I always have a stitch marker. If you don't, I guarantee you will need one. I've got my needles and I've got my yarn, and I'm ready to swatch for Elizabeth Green Musselman's Cattywampus hat. It is constructed, I want you to be able to see that without it washing out too much, but her hat is constructed on the bias, so it goes around on the bias and then it's seamed together. So I think it's knit flat and then seamed together. So it's an interesting construction, and I am looking forward to making it. If you don't watch Dark Matter Knits podcast, she's one of my favorites. She's very thoughtful in the things she says and makes, and she's a great designer. Several of her designs are in my queue to be made. So that's, anyway, by the next time I see you, I will have the swatch done. I'm not sure if I'll actually be working on it or not, but I am going to swatch. Okay, in case you're wondering what this glorious piece of beauty is, this is my PAX. The pattern is by Ava Nee, and she writes the most interesting patterns in Tunisian crochet. If you can see that, that is just the Tunisian crochet simple stitch, and then it's done in some short rows to give it this curve. I call this my Broadway scarf because a couple years ago my daughter and I and some friends went to New York City, and it was basically just for a long weekend, and we did take in a play off Broadway, but I made sure to wear my PAX because I felt the most glorious and fabulous with my PAX scarf on. I think this is out of some Knit Picks Chroma. Isn't it just the way the colors just blend together? I really, really very much like it. Okay, stash enhancement. Last week I had my Valentine's yarn that I surprised myself with as a gift. Yeah, we'll go with that. This week, my Desert Vista Dye Works yarn has come in. And she is just a phenomenal dyer. Phenomenal. That's Minerva Turkey Knits word for the week. So this is phenomenal too. The colorway for this yarn is Zombie Lavender Decomp. You can really get a better idea of it down here. That's more true to color. It's got some lime green, some purple, some ickiness. This is some decomp going on. This is sock weight yarn. I'm not sure what this is going to be when it grows up, but it's very happy when it looks at me and says, "Knit me, I'm beautiful." So I don't know what that's going to be. It needs to be something that everybody gets to see a lot. that's the thing with knitting socks. Not that I've ever knit socks, with that being said. But you don't get to see them as much. I wear sneakers all winter, and then I wear Birkenstocks all summer. So, I don't know. I want people to see the beautiful things. So that's probably why I have to have them up here. Like, if you're going to look at me, you're going to look at my beautiful projects. So that was my stash enhancement. I don't know what it's going to be yet. If you have any ideas of what you think it would be beautiful as, let me know. I do have a thread or a group on Ravelry. It's the Gojenn podcast group. Pop in, join us. We're not very lively yet. We need to get lively. And tell me what you think this should be. My podcast group should have a motto like the town I went to high school in Gretna, Virginia. We had a big sign as you came into town that said, "Ain't no big thing, but it's growing." Still not a big thing. So this is not a big thing, finished thing yet. But if you have any ideas of what it should be when it grows, let me know. Excuse me. I did say, yeah, I did. I told you about the Cattywampus hat that I'm looking forward to making by Elizabeth Green Musselman. As far as books, I have not been reading. Bad me. So I'm still reading The Dark Monk. I think I'm getting close to the end of that. And it's one of those that, it's not compelling, it's just interesting. So, well, okay, we know basically who did it. Let's go ahead and find them and get them and beat them up. And I'm also reading Skin Tight. That one I'm listening to via Audible on earbuds while I'm at work. And so sometimes I just burst out laughing. It's hilarious. At one point, there was a hitman coming after our main character, Mick Stranahan. And the hitman is 6'4", very, very gaunt. He also had a skin malfunction when he went in, I think to have like a mole taken off, and the doctor that was working on his skin had a heart attack or fell asleep or some such and just screwed up his whole face. That's not funny, but it is in the book. He's coming after our main character. He's really tall. He's very gaunt, and he didn't want his clothes to get wet while he was on a ski-doo trying to get to the good guy. So he's in his tidy whities, riding a ski-doo with a machine gun strapped to his back. I don't know about you, but that sounds kind of weird, and the author's often making comments about the things you see in Florida. So, okay. So, Jennifer, you may say, you're not reading. What are you doing? I have been watching The Fall. It's streaming on Netflix. I'm not sure who told me to watch it, whether it was my daughter or my sister. I really enjoyed the series of The Killing, which followed one murder investigation throughout the whole series. Well, this is The Fall, and it is set in Belfast, Ireland. Gillian Anderson from X-Files plays a very beautiful chief inspector who's brought in to see if they can catch a serial murderer, basically. Her English accent's not the best. Okay, I can't really do an English accent other than a little bit of Harry Potter. But that part you have to just get over in the first couple episodes. She is meant to be very beautiful, and she really is gorgeous in this. Gorgeous, very smoldering, sexy. And the murderer, and you know who he is right off in the beginning, and so you're following the two cases of her trying to catch him and him being compelled by his inner demons to do the things he does. He is flat out gorgeous. His name, the actor's name is Jamie Dornan, and he is from Northern Ireland. And I didn't know it until I went to look it up so I could give you some background, so I could say, in case you watched this, this is who the actor is. Well, he's 50 Shades of Grey. He's the actor that is playing the main in that, which I haven't seen it, and so I can't speak to that at all. But he does smoldering, thoughtful, sexy, really well. So that's what I've been doing. There are 2 seasons on Netflix, and I am about to finish up the 2nd season, and hopefully there will be a satisfactory ending, because there wasn't. The first season finished in a cliffhanger, so I don't want cliffhanger for this, but I am truly enjoying it. That is all of the things that I really have to talk to you about. I did want to mention a couple things. If you don't, I recommend the Fat Squirrel podcast. Her name is Amy Beth, and she's just a hoot. She'll make you laugh out loud during her podcast. She's hilarious, and also very experienced. When you're watching it, you're just kind of, oh yeah, that crazy Amy Beth, and then you realize, oh okay, she just taught me something. So she's very, very good to watch. One of the things she commented on in her last podcast was that knitting calms the voices in her head. And I don't know if you have voices in your head. I do. I have my mom. She lives over here. I have a girlfriend who talks to me in my head. My daughter, my older daughter, she's got a spot there. Most of her comments start off with, Mom, because I think that's the way she spoke to me for 10 years or so. It does get better. If you're in that stage right now with a daughter or son, it gets better. We have I think, a really good relationship and love her dearly. So, but she's in my head a lot when I do things like order project bags. Mom, you know you have enough project bags. You don't need another one. Yes, I do. But I have to tell that voice in my head that I do. And I wanted to speak just for a second about how I justify my yarn purchases. And yes, I do have stash enhancement. Yes, these are not $5 acrylic skeins of yarn, but they don't look like $5 acrylic skeins of yarn either. They're very beautiful yarns, and they're going to make very beautiful projects. I rationalize my yarn purchases because I do. My husband and I live on a budget. I don't have money to just buy everything I want. I carry my lunch to work. That's one of my rationalizations. I quit smoking. That's been years ago, but I'm still using it, right? Because if I were smoking, I wouldn't be able to buy yarn. See? That was good too, wasn't it? And then too, most of what I make, I will wind up giving away. And that's because there are only so many beautiful things that I can have and wear. And it makes me so very happy to see someone else enjoying the things I make. That's why I've made a lot of Afghans in the past, so that people can cover up, feel loved, and I always tell people that I knit and crochet with love. When I know I'm making something for a certain person, I think about that person while I'm working on the object. I think about how much I love them. I think, will they like this? Is this going to be something that they enjoy? So that brings me a lot of pleasure. So I don't know, and I don't have a massive stash. Ha, no lightning. I'm good. It's not massive by any stretch of the imagination. It's not. I do have quite a big stash of acrylics because that's what I used to work with mostly. And I still can't rationalize the idea of making a full-size Afghan out of these expensive yarns. That it's just not, it's not logical, because I want the person that gets the Afghan to be able to throw it in the washing machine if the dog throws up on it. Not that that would ever happen, but just in case, you got to be able to wash it. I don't want you to feel that it has to take special care. I just want you to love it and use it, and think of me every now and then, and know that I love you. I love the person that I've made that for, because I don't make things for people that I don't love. That's one of the rules of being knit worthy is, do I love you? If so, aha, you may get something very nice. One last thing that I want to leave you with this week. I think my sister mentioned it to me, and then I saw a commercial on Hulu for the Jeff Bridges sleeping tapes. That may sound kind of odd to you, and I understand. It did to me. Squarespace is hosting these tapes. If you know who Jeff Bridges is, he's older. He played, and he was the main character in the remake of True Grit. He's got a wonderful, gravelly, deep, sonorous voice. He was the dude. So, in The Big Lebowski. So I know you know who I'm talking about. Anyway, he has these sleeping tapes, and I have listened to them several times. I can't tell you what's on them because they put me to sleep. So let me just play, hopefully or not, a snippet. Of course it doesn't want to work because I want to show it to you. That's kind of the way it goes. He's sitting down. He's going to talk to you about sleeping and the way things are, and he'll talk. And he's just, they don't make a lot of sense, or at least the part I remember listening to didn't. It was like, sleep, dream, wake up. But in his voice, it just brings you a set of, you just feel so calm. And you take a deep breath and you can go on to sleep. So one night after you have been sitting in your knitting chair, knitting away or crocheting away, and maybe you've watched an episode of The Fall, so you're kind of scared and freaked out, because this can happen. Give Jeff Bridges sleeping tapes, and you can Google that and find it. It is hosted on Squarespace. It's free to download if you feel like making a donation. He does, I think all proceeds go to a charity. So I haven't done that yet. Bad me. But that's all that I have to share with you this week. Please come by the Ravelry group. drop me a line, ask me a question. Is there something you want me to talk about in particular? Let me know. Is there a pattern you think I should use for that zombie yarn? Let me know, because it needs to be something beautiful. And I just want to say I appreciate you coming and staying with me for this little while. I hope you have a wonderful week, full of joy and laughter. I will see you next week. Bye.